Hey there, and welcome to episode number 15 of the Elevate podcast. I'm Kyle Goldie, and on today's chat, I'm going to go in depth into discussion with world-renowned wedding and portrait photographer Sal Cincotta. Sal has been constantly expanding his brand and his name into different sectors within the photography industry for the past couple of decades. And on this episode, Sal and I are going to be going in depth about a lot of the key business points that many wedding and portrait photographers wonder about. So if you're looking to level up your photography business, this episode is definitely for you, so stick around. Hey everyone, welcome to the Elevate podcast with me, your host, Kyle Goldie. I'm a husband, traveler, photographer, and successful small business owner, and each week I'll be sharing authentic, actionable advice or incredible, inspirational interviews to help improve the way you run your life. So join us, take notes, and most importantly, take action. Let's get straight into it. Today, Sal Cincotta is with me, and we have some really awesome photography business building tips to share with you. But first, let's chat about something really important, because Sal and I agree on one very big and important aspect when it comes to the business of photography and making a higher income with your time. Because we see countless photographers spending so much time worrying about the technical aspects to photography and the hottest piece of equipment that just came out, that the business side of photography is nearly forgotten. We see so often that photographers spend so much money and time worrying about equipment that they put aside their education over marketing, lead generation, branding, and ultimately sales. Yes, the technical aspects are still very important to hone in on your craft as a photographer, but without the business knowledge behind you, you're not going to have a business to run. That's why I wanted to bring on Sal today to this show and why we go in depth and cut straight to the point. Photographers, make sure to stick with us on this episode because this is one incredibly valuable episode as always. And as always, listen, take notes, and most importantly, take action. So let's get straight into it. All right, so Sal, you're here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me today. And I know those listening here are super excited for this episode. And to help our listeners understand a bit more about who you are, would you be able to share how you got started as a photographer, how long you've been in the industry, and where you're based? We'd love to hear more about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I always love talking about photography to pretty much anybody who will listen. But got started about 12 years ago. Well, really, it goes back even further. I shot my first wedding at about 17 years old. And hated every minute of it because it was super traditional back in the 80s and really wasn't what I wanted to do. But I loved photography, so I started gravitating towards architectural photography. And I think if you look at my work and portfolio, you'll actually see the heavy influence architecture has. And so, but as a professional, I've actually been a full-time working for professional for the last 12 years. And I think we have the best jobs in the world. We get to do cool things all around the world, and people pay us for it.
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that you kind of started out kind of on the architectural side of things, because me personally, I've been working full-time as a photographer now for 10 years and hated getting into weddings straight away. I got into landscape photography because I didn't enjoy weddings so much, but then after kind of learning landscapes, got into fashion, and that kind of led naturally almost back into weddings. And when I had a bit more confidence and a bit more understanding about how to drive in my ideal client, it just became more enjoyable for me.
Well, I mean, that's the key, right? Finding the right clients. You talk to wedding photographers all over the world, and they think weddings are just like bridezillas and,
Yeah.
Insatiable clients. And it's not really accurate. I've found that there's good clients and bad clients. I mean, that's not just our industry, that's every industry. And, you got to get better at sniffing the crazy out and staying away from the bad clients.
Yeah, and kind of what I've noticed is that there's actually more momzillas than bridezillas.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah. So I've asked my audience what questions they'd love to hear that you chat about, and there was one that stood out amongst the rest. They would love to hear your story on the expansion of your brand to include everything from weddings to family portraits. So what would you say was the number one thing that has helped you make that expansion happen?
Uh, Exposure, really. I mean, if I had to step back and just pick a word, it's really marketing. What we do as photographers, I think photographers get too caught up in technical perfection. And I know, some people listen to that and they'll be like, oh, he's advocating you don't have to be a good photographer. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we need to be good artists, but we have to be incredible business people.
Yeah.
And I think when you lose sight of that, that's where you start hating business. And I spend probably 90% of my time as a business person,
Yeah.
and 10% of my time shooting. Now, I will be honest. When I first started this 12 years ago, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're just going to be shooting and taking pictures all the time. It's amazing. And well, no, that's not accurate. That's not how it works.
Yeah, totally. Because I'm actually really glad that you brought that up, because what I've personally noticed as well is totally in line with what you're saying. Because a lot of photographers out there spend so much time trying to quote unquote perfect their craft that they've completely put off to the side how to actually run a profitable business. And what I've kind of noticed, especially within Facebook groups in particular, is that photographers are trying to impress other photographers and not necessarily just trying to impress the public, which is their client.
Well, exactly right. I mean, it's I always, I'll post a picture from time to time, and then people feel compelled to give me constructive criticism that I didn't ask for.
Yeah.
And it's always when it's on my public page and my clients are tagged on it, and I
Right.
will go berserk on somebody because it doesn't matter if you like it. It doesn't matter if it's technically perfect. What matters is that the client likes it. And the minute
Right.
you understand that you it's your client. Who cares about, I mean, I literally don't care
Yeah.
what another photographer thinks about my work. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't give two shits.
Yeah.
So if you're listening out there, stop worrying about what other photographers think about your work and worry about what your clients, the people actually spending money and paying you, worry about what they think about your work, because they are all that matters ultimately.
Yeah, totally. Because what I see is a lot of people try to also compare their work to other photographers. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to compare yourself to someone else? Focus in on yourself, focus in on your brand, focus in on the money that you're bringing in for yourself, because you still have that mortgage to pay. You still have those bills to pay. Like, you still have like the food to put on the table. So if you're not focusing on any of that, like, you're just going to be running yourself into the ground.
Yeah, and don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I mean, of course, we have to be committed to continual education. I mean, that goes without saying. I want to be better this year than I was last year. And as
Yeah.
I go into next year, I want to get better. So I'm honing and perfecting my craft. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. But again, at the end of the day, don't care what other photographers think.
Yeah, 100%. Because what I kind of found interesting, actually, this very morning, I got a message through Facebook because someone learned that I have some business coaches myself, because I'm a coach, and every single listener that's listening to me here, they know that I'm a coach. And with that, the message that I got, they said that because I have coaches, I should not be a coach. And I simply got back to them saying, the moment that I stop learning is the moment that I start failing in my business.
That's 100%. I mean, you can't stop learning. And here's always been obviously I'm an educator. We own Shutterfest, a big photography conference. And, somebody asked me, I was just in Atlanta the other day teaching, and somebody said to me, like, what's your future? Like, how long do you see yourself doing this and teaching? And it was a weird question from a seminar, but
Yeah.
it was, I enjoyed it because here's my philosophy. There's lots of people out there teaching and educating. And then there's a lot of people who should not be teaching and educating.
100%.
And
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names and
Yeah.
point fingers, but
Yeah.
if you're not an active photographer anymore, wedding photographer, you should probably stop teaching the business of wedding photography. It doesn't mean you can't teach on lighting and posing. Those things are classical, right? Rembrandt lighting is Rembrandt lighting. I mean,
Right.
whatever. But why are you teaching about marketing? You don't know shit about marketing. Stop talking about marketing. You haven't done marketing in 5 years. So for me personally, the minute I stop being an active photographer, you're probably going to see me step away from the world of education, because I don't want to be that guy or that girl. I want to be I want to know that the information I'm putting out there is still relevant because I'm still learning and I'm still growing.
Yeah, it's like you say, like it's kind of hard to keep on the industry's trends, not only in the photography industry, but on like the business and marketing side as well. If you're not actively doing things yourself, not actively testing and tracking all that data.
Right. Exactly right. Couldn't agree with you more.
So for your portrait photography brand, how crucial do you think it is to have a physical studio space to have success?
Uh, I don't, I don't know. It depends on your style of portrait photography, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
could we could step into a lobby of the most disgusting hotel in the world, put up a white backdrop, and magically we're doing portraits. So having your own studio to make the portrait, I don't think is necessarily required. We could go in a parking lot and make great portraits.
Yeah.
However, having your own studio, I think, is important in lending credibility to the value of your brand. But if I'm working out of my car, I'm sending a message to prospective clients that we're not really that good. We're not worth the money we're trying to charge. I mean, it's going to be hard charging $2,000 and $3,000 for a portrait session if you're working out of your beat up, rusted out Nissan Altima. It's not possible. But when you pull up to a studio, we have a 3-story 12,000 square foot studio space. You're paying me money. That we're an established brand, and it wasn't always that way, right? I mean, I don't want listeners to think that, oh, you're just lucky. We're not lucky. We work hard.
Right.
But we started in my basement. And then from my basement, I moved into my first studio, which was a very small 1,200 square foot studio. And then from there, we're in the space we're in today. So we all start somewhere. Don't lose sight of that. But I think you have to have a space for sales and have a space to really establish your brand as a brick and mortar, brand.
Yeah. So for portrait photography, I know this is a huge topic. So I just want to touch on it really quickly here because it's definitely meant for another podcast episode. But for portrait photography, would you say that the biggest way to make big money with portrait photography is doing in-person sales?
If you're not doing in-person sales, you're an idiot. I mean,
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to. There's a lot of people who want to sugarcoat it. But the reality is you are not making real money if you're not doing IPS. And, I don't want to hear about the one guy who lives in some city or, and has a digital sales model and he made $3,000. I don't care. The reality is if you want to build a real business, a real brand with sustainable income, you need to be in-person selling. It's just all there is to it. And we adopted that model over 10 years ago. We had our brand after adopting IPS. It was a very short 2+ year window where we converted to being $1 million studio. That's incredible. I don't have 20 shooters. We were averaging about $15,000 per wedding. We did 52 weddings, and we were averaging $2,500 per portrait session. And we were doing about 150 portrait sessions a year, and then add on to that variables like commercial shoots and headshots and all that other thing. The numbers add up very, very quickly. None of that being possible if we weren't doing in-person sales. Just not possible.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, especially when you start doing the math and all of that. Because on a lot of other podcast episodes here, I talk about how to build up your wedding business. But if you're able to chat about your portrait photography business really quick, what would you say is the number one lead generation strategy that you've been able to bring in more portrait clients?
Oh, man. Direct mail. Still use direct mail. We still do Facebook marketing and advertising. And then, of course, referrals. Senior portraits is a big part of our portrait business. And we've managed to build a very high-end brand for kids. So kids don't want to be, peeking their head around a tree. They don't want to have ivy and, red roses and everything else, black and white, all that other nonsense that kids just don't want today. Kids want to look and feel like the shit they're seeing in movies, the shit they're seeing in magazines. And so that's our brand. So by going back to basics with marketing, again, direct mail, Facebook, Instagram, and then of course referrals. And then the one everybody always forgets about is just vendor relationships.
Yeah.
There's vendors out there selling dresses, marketing to these kids already. Well, what are you doing to connect with them to maybe do some joint marketing, events? How could that help your business? These are just tried and true best practices in marketing. But again, I'm thinking like a business person,
Yeah.
not thinking like an artist. And that's where people there's a disconnect.
Yeah, because once you get super targeted in, especially with something like Facebook ads, it's really honed in on exactly who your ideal client is, and then you're only messaging them with that ad copy. And in that ad copy, if you're using it the right way, they're going to click on that, and they're going to opt in to that particular funnel, and then that drops them into possibly like an email sequence, and then you can manually follow up. So it ends up working out quite well, especially if you're doing your inbound marketing correctly.
Well, that's exactly right. But 9.5 out of 10 photographers don't know what inbound marketing even is. So therein, again, lies the issue is that we have a community of people who want to think like artists. And I want to kind of walk that statement back a little bit. It's not really just artists. It's almost all small businesses. Small businesses start because you have a passion for something. You're good at something. You're good at making cupcakes. So now you've opened up a bakery. You are not good at marketing. You probably don't know anything about marketing, and that's fine. But then find somebody who does, and
Right.
I think that's the key.
Yeah, totally agree. Like what I wish that I had when I started out is I wish that I had a mentor. I wish I had a coach myself. And the primary reason, and I'm not just bullshitting when I say this, but the primary reason why I became a coach myself is that I wish that I had a person like me to kind of help me going early on in my own career, because I could have saved years and countless thousands of dollars.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think same holds true for a lot of people get into teaching. Same for us. It's like I realized all the struggles I had in the beginning, and a lot of questions there was just no place to find an answer for. So we want to find a way to teach and coach and give back
Yeah.
to the community, because I want a healthy. In one sense, I'm an active photographer, so in my local market, I'm very competitive with local photographers. But then, by the same token, we're giving back to that same community.
Right.
Want them to be healthy and compete. I mean, I'm a wedding photographer. There's 2 million weddings a year in the United States. I can't shoot them all, right? So we can teach people how to be better business people, but on the same token, when it comes to closing business, I'm your competitor.
Yeah, and you've accomplished a lot over your career. Like, would you be able to touch on how you manage your time and how you've been able to exponentially grow your multiple brands while trying to also maintain a sense of work-life balance?
Yeah. So cut the work-life balance out of your statement, and then that's how, right? So there is no work-life balance. Personally, when I hear people talk about work-life balance, it just sounds like, you saw a unicorn last week, because I don't think you can be an entrepreneur, a business owner, and have any semblance of work-life balance. We work 7 days a week, 15 to 18 hours a day. And I've been doing that for 10 plus years. I took my first vacation last year. And so, you might hear me say something like that and think, oh man, that must just be miserable. He's not happy. Like, no, like, don't misunderstand the word I'm saying. I actually have the best life ever. I travel. I make great images. I love trying different foods from all around the country and the world. And my career has given me that opportunity. So instead of looking for work-life balance, I'd be looking for kind of a work-life synergy. And for us, my work is my life is my work. And it's a different way of looking at it. And when when you're punching in, sorry for the long-winded answer, but when you're getting up in the morning and you're going to work that job that you hate every day, that's where you're looking for work-life balance. But when you have the opportunity to find what you're passionate about, and again, it doesn't have to be photography, whatever it is you're passionate about, when you find that ability to wake up every day and do what you love, it's not work. And that's the part you have to wrap your head around.
Yeah, because once you're passionate about it, like exactly what you're saying, like it just does not feel like work. Yeah, you might be putting in the long hours, and yeah, you might be getting a little burned out every so often, especially in peak season. But if you love what you do, it's not going to feel so much like work.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
So is there one brand that you have found that can mostly run without you being present, or do you kind of have to be there equally within all your brands?
I'm definitely not there equally with all the brands. I mean, right, we've got Shutter Fest, which is our conference, Shutter Magazine, which is one of the largest professional photography magazines out there. We've got Evolve, which handles post-productions for photographers so they can stop color correcting, being late to their clients, and of course, deliver their images in, a 3 to 5 day window. Some of the brands require more attention than others, and some require more attention at different times of the year. Evolve, I've got an incredible management team that is handling day-to-day operations, but marketing, vision, messaging, that is 100% me. I'll never let go of that for any of the brands. Operationally, that stuff doesn't excite me. I don't get overly excited about the operation of a business. If we're talking about Evolve, I'm not getting excited about onboarding a new client and, helping them figure out what their style of editing is. I could care less. Like, that's where we have a team.
Yeah.
But, for vision and what I want to do in the future and what I think photographers need, I'm a big picture guy. And then I think it's important to know where your strengths and weaknesses are. And I surround myself with people who are good at kind of the daily nuts and bolts of it all. So, and then of course on a wedding day, well, that's all me. That's where I'm in my happy place, when I have a camera in my hand and I'm doing what I love.
Yeah, you're kind of in your zone of influence right there.
Yeah.
So one thing that I've personally noticed by checking out your various websites is that you've just become a master at building email lists. You've grown your email list to such a huge audience. So if you can, what would you say has been your most successful strategy in building your list to such a large number? And have you found the importance to building an email list a top priority in building your brands?
100%. The secret is content. Give content, people will give you their email. Offer, spammy and nonsensical sign-up list and, just things that seem super gimmicky or like clickbait. You're not going to get people to hand you their email. And, at the end of the day, Shutter, we're approaching, I think, 180,000 names on our list of photographers from around the world. So, you don't get to that level by not offering content. And I think that's the key, because without your list, without your email list, and by the way, it doesn't matter, you just know your business, because if you're a wedding photographer, there's value to building your list on brides. There's value there. You may not understand it. That's a problem in and of itself. You got to figure out how to build that list, nurture that list, right, and drive them through your sales funnel.
Yeah.
But again, that's another conversation. But lists are today's, currency. I mean, without those names, you're spending it's a lot more expensive to market to Facebook for potential brides than it is to market to them to collect names, and then you can market to them repeatedly.
Yeah.
That's a much more cost-effective strategy.
Yeah, 100%. It's actually what I do in my own business and what I kind of coach on and what I even blog about for free, what I talk about in my podcast episode. So yeah, you're totally spot on right there. And now, because you did mention Evolve, I'd love to chat briefly about outsourcing your work as a photographer. Because personally, I'm a huge advocate for outsourcing. I don't do any of my own I don't do any of my own editing for my wedding and portrait work. And it's been the number one thing that's been freeing up my time, and it's allowed me to make even more money, and it's allowed me to be able to reinvest that energy into expanding my own brands. And now that I personally have coaching programs and courses, as well as my own photography clients who I absolutely adore, I use your company, Evolve, for all of my photo editing outsourcing. And so I want to be able to chat with you briefly about that and why you personally recommend to outsource your work as a photographer.
Yeah, and Kyle, thank you for being, a customer of Evolve, and we appreciate that, of course, and thank you for just being smart. And so, here's what it comes down to. The history of Evolve started when I was just a photographer. I didn't own the company, right? And over the years, it became more strategic for me, and I realized I had to acquire this company, that my business would not survive without it. I got into a month of October. I had 10 weddings in the month of October. The average wedding was taking me 10 to 12 hours to edit. That I think most photographers would agree with that number. Do the math, 10 weddings, that's 120 hours sitting at a computer editing. I was trying to turn weddings at 2 weeks for my clients. If I had to do those weddings myself, I would have been into January, right, in real time, and I would have been late for my clients. Customer service would have slacked. Today, our clients see images in 2 weeks. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is a huge customer service thing. So if you're listening and you're sitting there on images that you're days, weeks, months late on, get your head out of your ass and start letting go of that, because I have news for you. Not one of your clients cares about how much magenta is in their image. What ends up happening is photographers will sit there and obsess about a little bit more green, a little bit more magenta, a little bit more. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares. I'm telling you, nobody cares. We are the only crazy people who can look at an image and see it's a tad bit too warm. It's a tad bit too green. Get your style dialed in. Get it 90 to 95% of the way you want it. And that is more than good enough for your clients. And so the name of the game is really customer service. Take that time and shoot more and market more. Those are the two things as photographers who are business owners. That's where you should be spending your time. If you're not marketing and shooting, you're wasting your time. I don't care if we're talking about accounting. There's people who do that. Let them keep your books. Color correction, it's simple. It's not complicated. Let Evolve help you on that. Stop being a lawyer. Let a real lawyer write your contracts up. And so if you're serious about this and you want to take care of your customers in a timely fashion, it's time to outsource. Let it go.
Yeah, because what I keep telling everyone who wants to listen to me, I say the number one thing you should be doing as a photographer is not even shooting. I say to do your number one thing is your lead generation. Because without
100%.
your leads, you're not going to be able to shoot at all. You're just going to be out there every single day for free. So
100%.
Just lead generation, lead generation, lead generation. If you're not doing lead generation today,
photographers would rather watch 10 hours of YouTube videos on how to dodge and burn. Like to them, that seems like a logical place to spend their time.
Yeah.
And that's where they're just not getting it. Like no one cares. And so take that 10 hours and spend it about learning about how to market your business better. Yeah. Take that 10 hours, build vendor relationships that are going to lead to referrals, create direct mail campaigns that are going to help make you money. Do things that are going to help you make money. And hey, Kyle, there's people out there who do get it. And those are the ones who are running successful studios. And then there's the ones who don't, and they're forever crying the blues.
Well, yeah, because regarding editing, just as a one final piece here, I just wanted to quickly bring this up for everyone who's listening. What I've kind of personally noticed is that a lot of photographers, and I'm speaking about myself here regarding me being, 4 or 5 years ago. And so what I used to have in my business was a lot of ego. And I felt like I needed to have control over every single aspect of my business. But I hired a mindset coach about 5 years ago now. And I spent, I think, $5,000 on just having this mindset coach. And I had that person just really crack through all of that ego and to get over myself and to let that editing process go, because I was trying to impress me. Whereas me, I'm this perfectionist kind of guy. And that's bad by itself because nothing is ever going to be perfect. And who really gives a shit? Because if your client is happy, that is the goal. That's the one goal. So to everyone that's listening here, if you have that ego of that control, I want you to be able to let that go, because now you're going to have that time to now put into that lead generation to make you even more money.
Exactly.
So I've got one final question for you, Sal. If there's one piece of advice that you could give to photographers looking to make more income in their business, what would that be? Would that be something like you're recommending photographers to double down on their niche of photography? Would you recommend that they expand their brand offering like you have over the years? Or would you recommend that they do something else entirely?
Well, I'm gonna leave it a little bit more broader than that.
Please.
Plan for success. If it's the one piece of advice I can give you is that in everything you do, plan for success. When I was starting out, everything we did, whether it was building, whether it was our marketing programs, whether it was our, order tracking, infrastructure, business programs, everything we did, we just seemed to plan for mediocrity. And I think it stunted our growth kind of in the early years, because instead of saying, hey, we're going to do 50 weddings a year, we were just thinking, man, if we could just shoot 10 weddings a year. And then the next thing I know, when we got to 50 weddings a year, we weren't ready for it. We weren't ready to service our customers correctly. We weren't ready to, offer the right products, charge the right amount of money. So step back. If you're serious about this, plan for success. And by the way, it's not fair to say that without saying define success. What does success look like to you? Because success to you is completely different than success to me or success to Kyle. I believe, some people go, success for me is I'm going to work my full-time job and I just want some side income, maybe 5 weddings a year, 10 weddings a year. Great. Nothing wrong with that. Some people might go, success to me is making over $100,000 a year in photography. Equally is great. So plan for that. Put a plan in place. How are you going to do that? How are you going to service your customers? How are you going to turn your images quickly enough for them? How are you going to put the right programs in place to respond to your clients, service your clients, deliver orders on time? Those are all the things that I would say in this very broad statement I made. Start planning for success today and stop planning for failure.
Yeah, I love that. Again, as this whole conversation has really gone, I agree with that totally. Because what I recommend that everyone do is to automate everything that they can, delegate and outsource everything that they don't have to be doing themselves. So now you're only left with the very few things that you personally need to touch. And as the photographers who are listening here, obviously you need to be the person that is behind the brand. You need to be one that's actually showing up and actually photographing that particular client. Everything else like bookkeeping and editing your own photos, outsource it, delegate it. Even in your personal life, if you don't have to go grocery shopping, have that groceries delivered. You don't have to go wash your car, take it through a car wash. Save yourself that time so that you have the time left over to then put into lead generation. And then when you think that you've done enough lead generation that particular day, you can either choose to spend more time within your business and making it grow like you're all wanting to do, or just spend a time with your family and actually build those relationships that you have right now.
Amen to that, brother.
So yeah, man, I really appreciate you being here. That's all the questions I have for today, but I really just wanted to say thank you because I know you have a super busy schedule.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Sal. I'll talk to you soon. So photographers, if you are still editing your own photos out there for your wedding and portrait clients, I recommend that you stop. Stop spending so much time on something that you don't personally have to be doing yourself. Outsource your editing and use the same company that I personally use, Evolve Edits. You can find them right on www.evolveedits.com. It's Sal's company, his one of many, and they do an absolutely stellar job, and I can say that from my own personal experience. And because I outsource my editing through Evolve, I can focus in on the one thing that truly matters in my business, lead generation. And when you drop my name and my coupon code, the coupon code of Elevate 2019, you can get started with a free 30-day trial. And when you sign up with them, you're also going to get 2 free months. That's right. When you use the coupon code Elevate 2019, you're going to get a 30-day free trial. And then you're going to get 2 free months after that 30-day free trial lapses. So I hope you found this episode to be incredibly helpful and valuable. And if so, as always, please rate and review the episode, share it with your friends, and help spread the word. The more these podcast episodes get heard by others, the more I can continue bringing in an amazing podcast guest and give you as much value as I can. So sign up for Evolve today and subscribe here to my podcast for more awesome interviews and informative discussions. I look forward to seeing you on the next one, and until then, keep crushing it. This episode of the Elevate podcast with me, Kyle Goldie, has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more actionable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you crush your goals and elevate your life. Don't forget to rate and review so that I can continue to help bring you the absolute best content and help you set yourself up to win. I'm going to see you on the next episode of the Elevate podcast.